Well, Yvette Cooper is with us now. She's got a mug in front of you. I can't see from here.
It's tea, Martha, tea. Definitely tea.
OK. If you'd like to ring in on tea or anything else, 03700 100 444. So let's go to our first caller now, and it's Vivian Bolton, who's ringing from Norwich. And I understand you've been a Labour member all your life, but you're trying to make up your mind between Yvette Cooper and Jeremy Corbyn, Vivian.
I haven't been a Labour member all my life, but I've been a socialist all my life, and I've voted for the Labour Party all my life. But I have been a Labour member for the last year.
So what's your question to Yvette Cooper?
Okay, Yvette, for more than 10 years, I thought that you would ultimately be our leader. When I listen to you in Parliament, you come over as so strong and articulate and witty, and amongst the others, you really hold your own. But during this campaign, something changes. Your speeches don't have a vision for us. They're full of sound bites, and you respond to questions in stop phrases. Well, that's how it seems to me. It's just as if Yvette has disappeared. What is your vision for the nation? Because I've really wanted to vote for you. I spoke for you at our AGM, but I've not voted yet.
OK, well, let's let Yvette Cooper answer that.
OK, so Vivian, I hope I can persuade you to vote for me, because I think we have got to stand up against the damage that the Tories are doing to Britain. We've got to be strong enough to do that, to oppose them, have ideas ourselves for the future, and also be strong enough to reach out to win. Because if we're just standing on the sidelines shouting, we're not going to be able to change the world, and we will let people down. Things I'm calling for is we've got to have more good jobs in Britain. Too many of the problems are that the kids don't have good jobs to apply for. Let's double our investment in science, get 2 million more high-tech jobs for people to apply for. Let's have universal free childcare so that families can get on. Let's extend Sure Start, something that I was involved in rolling out, because I think that is one of the most radical ways to end poverty, support families for the future, and I think is a feminist approach to our economy as well. Right. And we should oppose the 40% spending cuts that George Osborne wants to do. That is an ideology of austerity. What I wouldn't do, though, is Jeremy's proposal for printing money as an alternative, because I just don't think that works.
OK, Vivian, was that convincing to you?
No, not really. It's the same answers that we've had. It doesn't work for me, and I'm really sorry, because I very, very much wanted to support a woman as leader, as well as Yvette, but I'm afraid it's just more of the same, really.
And Yvette Cooper, it's a criticism that's being directed from other sources as well. The New Statesman, which is actually backing you, says today Yvette Cooper has run a cautious campaign that was designed to maximise second preference votes from her rival supporters. So is that the reason for the caution?
Well, I don't think it is cautious to talk about free universal childcare like the Scandinavians do. I think that'll make a huge difference to Britain. And I said how you'd pay for it, because we could get rid of the marriage tax break, which I think stigmatises single-parent families, as well as just not reaching families being a good thing to do to support people for the future. I think there is, I don't think it is somehow cautious to talk about doubling our investment in science, working with business to create fantastic jobs for the future. We should be leading the digital revolution, just as we did the industrial revolution. I don't think it's cautious to talk about paying a full living wage, rather than what George Osborne's doing for care workers, 1.4 million care workers. Now, it's true, I am not going to go to the extremes of the party. I am not going to go to the extreme left. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I'm not going to go to the extreme right either. I'm going to put forward what I think is a practical plan which could change people's lives. If we don't try and actually put things into practice, we will fail. We will let people down. That's what we did at the last election.
Don't have too much time for long speeches, but Carl Quidian has tweeted us and he says, does the Labour Party need to be the left or right of Ed Miliband, or did he get it about where it should be?
To be honest, I think you've got to reach out. If you just think that what you need to do is move our narrow party a bit to the left or a bit to the right, we will fail, because we were too narrow at the election. We lost votes to UKIP, to the SNP. We lost votes to the Tories as well. And so it's got to be about reaching out and also thinking about the future, the 2020 election. That's how we should be radical for the future, not go back to the 20th century.
Let's go to Lancashire now, to Barrowford, and talk to Terry McGuinn. And you're a member of Unite. What's your question for Yvette Cooper?
Hi, Yvette. If the numbers of people turning up to listen to the four candidates is any guide, this electorate, the ones who are voting for leader, have engaged more with Jeremy Corbyn's ideas. And I'm just wondering if the degree to which the Parliamentary Labour Party, the MPs, have become disconnected from the wider Labour movement has actually been a surprise to you.
Well, look, I think it's good to have so many more people joining the party and being part of a party. We've got to be a movement, not just a party. And I had about 1,000 people come to events over the weekend, which was brilliant, particularly in Yorkshire. We had a lot of people. I had 400 people at events yesterday, and we had a lot of people getting involved. I think
But do you think your campaign has really set people on fire in the same way that the Corbyn campaign seems to have done?
I think what's happening is people are feeling angry as a result of us losing the election and frustrated because we lost the election. And people want change. And I suppose my message to people is we can't just change our party and fail to change the country. And I don't think that many of Jeremy's ideas actually are as radical as people think. I don't think it is that radical to go back to Clause 4, for example. I don't think it is radical to say that you're going to print money. You know,
well, let's hear Terry make his point. Terry?
The people, if they're angry and they want change, maybe they think changing the party is the way to change the country, to have another argument in there about coming away from austerity, which is about shrinking the state. And this is a terrifically ideological gang that we've got in at the moment. The Tories are just letting rip.
And I agree with you on that, Terry. I think that what George Osborne's doing, this 40% cut that he's proposing, that goes way beyond what you need to do to bring the deficit down. We've got to have the confidence to oppose it, because I agree with you, it's an ideology.
You were to oppose it.
Well,
you were going to abstain.
No, that's not true. Actually, on these 40% cuts, I've been opposed for it from the start. The Labour Party has not signed up to it at all, and I don't think we must, because we have got to have the confidence to oppose this. I agree with you too that it is about an ideology which wants to shrink our public services. The Tories believe that somehow public services make you dependent. We know that good public services make you independent, give you opportunities for the future. But the difference between me and Jeremy is, whilst I would oppose the 40% cuts, I wouldn't do it by printing money.
How do you account for the gulf between, obviously, the Parliamentary Labour Party, who only just as a sort of whim almost gave Jeremy the votes to stand, and the thousands who were turning up for these meetings? I don't think either of the other three candidates have had to book an extra room.
Well, actually, we have had to change rooms sometimes where we've had more people who want to come than we'd booked the room for. I think in the end, this is going to be about people voting. The people have got their ballot forms right now. Let's see how people actually vote when they get their ballot forms, because the vote's not over yet. And I'm fighting for everybody to vote. I really would love to persuade you to vote for me as well, because I think in practice I could change more of the country than Jeremy can.
OK, thank you very much for that. And a tweet from Simon Katz, an issue related. He says to you, the Tory government just tried to pass a welfare reform bill that incised a £12 billion cut. Why didn't you vote against it?
Well, look, this was a complete mess, is the truth, their welfare reform bill, and we should just be honest about that. There were actually two votes. The first vote, we all voted against the bill. It would have blocked the bill completely if that vote had gone through, but that got lost in the messy compromise around the second vote, and we shouldn't have done that. I don't think it worked. I think, look, you have to. The reason
you personally, you could have taken a personal decision.
Well, the reason we ended up with a messy compromise was to try and hold the Parliamentary Labour Party together. I do think we should try to work as a team, but to be honest, it failed to do even that. So what I've said we would do in future, if I am elected leader, when the bill comes back to Parliament, unless it's had all the changes that we want to it, which looks unlikely, we will vote against the welfare reform bill. Keep it simple. Let's not try to be too clever about this.
Let's go to Reading in Berkshire now and talk to Maureen Valdez. So, Maureen, you've got a vote in this election. Have you made your mind up yet?
I haven't. I'm still swithering, as the Scottish say.
OK, well, let's see if we could end your swithering. What's your question to Yvette Cooper?
Hello, Yvette.
Hi, Maureen.
During the course of the campaign, you said you would not serve in a cabinet led by Jeremy Corbyn. And I feel that this would be to lose an important means of influencing the direction of the party. So the first part of my question is, do you still maintain that stance? And the second part is, if you are elected leader, would you invite Jeremy Corbyn to be a member of your cabinet?
OK, first question, Maureen. Look, I think it's just very unlikely. I think would be very hard for me to be able to defend something like the printing money, or the other things I think where Jeremy and I have taken different views have been, for example, around Europe, where I think he's been much more cautious, much more inclined to be resistant or to want us to pull out, or of NATO. And I think we've got to be an internationalist party. And I think I'm not going to take my bat and ball home. I'm not going to be, having splits in the party or leaving the party. I will always be part of the Labour Party and strongly fighting for the Labour Party. It's what I believe in. But I just think it would be really hard for me to serve in Jeremy's cabinet unless he completely changes his views on some big things, which doesn't look very likely at the moment. On the second question, I suppose it's probably a similar answer. I mean, I have huge respect for Jeremy's values and belief in the Labour Party, and we share views on things like human rights and homelessness. But Jeremy's voted against the Labour Party 500 times in Parliament, and I just can't see him wanting to be part of my shadow cabinet either, because I think that would be very difficult for him. You've got to be part of a team, and he's not shown any ability to do that before.
In fact, you've said, I don't believe that Jeremy can hold the party together. Are you genuinely worried that the party would split if you win?
I am, because I'm worried what's happening at the moment, that the party does seem to be polarising between the different extremes, and I don't think that is the right thing to do. It's partly, look, we want to hold our party together in order to win. Divided parties don't win, but it's actually much more than that. I just don't think the extremes of the party are the right place to be and are true to our values and are true to the things that we need to do to change the country for the future.
So interesting, you do fear a split in the Labour Party. Well, thank you very much indeed for that call, Maureen. Let's talk to Catherine Way, who's calling from London. And you have a vote in this election.
Yes, I do, and I haven't made up my mind how to use it yet. I'm trying to decide. Yvette, I have a question for you, very short, very simple. Trident, would you renew it?
I think we have to, and I know this is unpopular with party members. It'd be very easy to say things just because, it's what people want to hear. But I'll be just honest, I think I've always been a multilateralist. And, I was a multilateralist in the 1980s when it was unfashionable, and I'm a multilateralist now because I think you have to work with other countries in order to reduce nuclear weapons, in order to actually make our world a safer place, in order to if you think about some of the agreements that's been made with Iran around preventing the nuclear development there, that's been important, but it was through international negotiation. We are a player in those international debates, and therefore we have a responsibility, I think, to use that to try and reduce nuclear weapons globally and to try and be part of that internationalist approach rather than just withdrawing our horns.
Catherine, I sense that isn't the answer you wanted to hear.
No, it isn't. Well, I think nuclear weapons are an obscenity, but apart from that, I have yet to hear from a single person who's a fan of Trident who can tell me what they're going to use it for. It seems to me that in 10 years' time, when we've spent £100 billion, we'll be ready to fight a war from 1985. And that does not, even if I was a fan of nuclear weapons, that does not make me feel safer. And no one can explain to me, who would you use them against? You can't use weapons of mass destruction to take out lone suicide bombers or small groups or Al-Qaeda or ISIS. And I think deterrence as an idea, which was the justification for them in the 80s, is dead.
Okay.
You don't deter suicide bombers or martyrs.
Okay, well, I think you've obviously not convinced her, but thank you very much indeed for your call, Catherine. I want to move on now to a question about the economy, which is coming from Dr. John Birtle, who's calling from Gisborough in North Yorkshire.
Hello, Yvette.
Hi, John.
I worked in the chemical industry for many years. ICI, a blue chip company, the so-called bellwether of the British economy. You might remember that. It ran down under the policies of successive governments. I've received this leaflet from you, Labour's vision, how Labour can change Britain with an optimistic vision for the future. You've got in it, transform Britain to a high-wage, high-tech economy, leading the digital and green revolutions as we did the Industrial Revolution, and working with business to double investment in science.
Can we move to a question?
And create 2 million more high-skilled manufacturing jobs. How will we do this? How long will it take? And how will we compete with other economies with the same objectives?
Okay, thank you. We get the gist.
So this is what Germany's done. Germany has much higher investment in science and research and development than we do. I think we should be ambitious to do that in the same way. It does mean a partnership with business because a lot of that investment has to be business investment, but they need the incentives to do so, the support for doing so. If you look at, I went to the National Graphene Institute in Manchester, amazing science. They've done some fantastic things, but who's got the patents? The US and the China have got far more patents of graphene than we have. We want our businesses and our industry making making the most of that, you've also got to have a vocational revolution. We've got to end this British snobbery where academic qualifications are seen as great, vocational qualifications are seen as second class. Unless we have those vocational opportunities, we're letting too many of our young people down, but we're also holding our economy back.
Well, and nobody could disagree with that, but how are you going to create 2 million more high-skilled manufacturing jobs? Where's that investment going to come from? So much has been let decline, it's never going to come back.
So I think we've got to be ambitious about the new high-skilled manufacturing jobs of the future. If you compare those countries that have so much more investment in science and research and development, also have, as a result of that, far more jobs in high-skilled manufacturing. Now, we're losing those jobs at the moment to China, to India, not just the low-skilled manufacturing jobs, which we lost before, but also now the high-skilled manufacturing jobs. Those are the ones we should be competing for. We're going to fail to do that unless we have the investment in science. We do amazing science in Britain, but we never get the spin-offs, and we just don't do enough of it. So that's why I think if you start with the science, actually then that spreads out, and you work with business to get the skills, the infrastructure, to turn that science into brilliant jobs.
John Birtle, many thanks. We'll go to County Durham now to Peter Lee, and David Taylor Gooby is on the line, former Labour councillor.
Hello.
Hi there. Hi, Peter.
No,
Was it David?
I'm not Peter.
David.
That's my brother.
Sorry.
I'm David. Right.
He's from Peter Lee. That's
He was from... Sorry. Hello, David. How are you?
Go, David.
Yeah, you came to Peterlee once to open our housing headquarters.
That's right. That was a while ago.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm a lay commissioner for the NHS, and everybody says they're in favour of the NHS, but nobody has convinced me yet how we're going to have a long-term, sustainable funding solution for it. What are your views on that?
Well, we do need to support our National Health Service, and if that question was being asked in the 1990s and people said then, well, the National Health Service is going to be unsustainable as a result of what the Tories had done by running down the National Health Service for many years, everybody felt, well, we just couldn't carry on with the publicly funded model that we've had free at the point of use. And we did. We proved, the Labour government showed that you could do it. You could support our National Health Service. Yep, it did need more investment, but you could support a National Health Service into the future. And at a time when you've got, more genetics, more knowledge, I think you can't go down to private insurance model because it just won't work for people and it would be wrong. We're proud of our National Health Service, and I think we have to maintain those principles on which it was founded. It will need more investment as you get an older population. The government's promised they'll do that. We've got to hold their feet to the fire to make sure they do.
They've already reneged on their funding promises.
You're right, they've reneged on quite a lot.
30 billion is what its estimate we need. The government said 8 billion, find the rest from efficiency cuts. Well, you know that just can't be done in the time scale. We need a solution that lasts, not keep trying to find the money every year.
And one of the things you need to do is actually properly integrate it with social care as well, because as long as you treat the two, at a far arm's length removed, then you end up with the failures in social care end up undermining the National Health Service and vice versa. So it's got to actually see social care as part of the system too.
Thank you very much indeed, David. And Ryan Kemp has tweeted to ask, what one thing would you say that the Labour government of 1997 to 2010 got wrong?
Iraq. We need the Chilcot report out to know exactly what happened, but we were wrong that there were no weapons of mass destruction, and also the strategy was wrong because it drew resources from Afghanistan at a crucial stage in that
so you personally
conflict.
Got it wrong.
So yeah, I think, and we all did, and we have to accept that and take responsibility for that. But we need, I think, the full Chilcot inquiry published, and I've said that I would work with David Cameron to set a date and have a vote in Parliament to get that published soon, because I don't think it's fair on the families and on everybody, frankly, to keep waiting and waiting.
Obviously a big issue in this election campaign. And how do you think about the way it's being conducted? Because certainly there have been sort of question marks raised, talk about the Labour Party seeking legal advice. Do you think there have been enough checks and balances in place?
Well, obviously I hope they have. And the Labour Party has assured us that they are doing proper and robust checks. You've got to have that. We want people to be part of the election. We want people to be joining to be part of the election. Obviously, we don't want people who've been campaigning against the Labour Party and who don't share the values of the Labour Party to be part of that election. That
do you think that
has
been happening? I mean, Ben Bradshaw talked about having to eliminate 10% of the people.
We had Curiously, I was doing an interview on, I think it was Three Counties Radio, where the presenter a couple of days ago said that he knew of 3 Tory councillors who had managed to join as registered supporters. So I am hoping that they have been spotted by the Labour Party, because that clearly isn't about sharing the values of the Labour Party. So I know that they are doing a lot of checks, but obviously that is a responsibility for the party, not for the individual campaigns.
No, but afterwards, if you don't win, would you rule out mounting a legal challenge?
I've seen no evidence to mount a legal challenge, and that's not certainly what I'm looking at. What I'm trying to do is to win the election and to win as many votes as possible to persuade people of the arguments.
And one final question from Pat, as a woman, Pat from the Wirral, emailing. She says, what about the Ed Balls factor? Would she be influenced by his economic beliefs? Would he be parachuted into by-election and made Shadow Chancellor? She adds, it's not sexist to ask this question. I would still like to know if the roles were reversed.
Yeah, but funnily enough, people didn't ask the questions, did they? When Ed was standing in 2010, I don't remember him getting asked about it. Look, I think, Ed, I think, has done amazing things for the Labour Party over very many years, including making the Bank of England independent, including the work to stop Britain entering the euro, all sorts of important things. He's now doing other things. I mean, we were obviously really sad that he lost, but that, as he said, is democracy at its purest and simplest. And so he'll have other things that he wants to do rather than coming back into politics. So I'm standing now, and I've got a whole series of different ideas that I want to pursue for the country. I just want to put, family and children at the centre of our economy, our society, our politics. It's never been done before. I think we could do that. It would be a great thing to do for the future.
Yvette Cooper, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.